Join us on the line right now, Senator Jim Inhofe, Republican from Oklahoma. He's a senior member of the Environmental and Public Works Committee and also top Republican on the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator, how are you today?
Well, I'm good. How are you?
Well, we want to talk to you about EPA, but, I mean, there's been this development that occurred over the weekend that we've got to get you to weigh in on if you could. The United States gave back 5 Taliban commanders in exchange for Bo Bergdahl. A lot of people are raising questions about it. What is your thought about it?
Well, you're raising the two issues that are really meaningful to me and that I have a background in. And the whole issue here is they've been trying, or the president's been trying to close Gitmo now for, before he was president. And he has that commitment to try to do that. But the problem that we're having here is that he used this particular emotional situation to release 5 of the most, of the worst of all the terrorists that are out there. And the message that he has sent is one that is just really emboldens the Taliban and all the bad guys. And it blatantly breaks a law that we passed that says that we in Congress, and of course I'm speaking now of the Senate Armed Services Committee, have to be notified 30 days in advance as to who is going to be released and then the criteria. I don't. Maybe you two have been covering that this morning, but
yes.
The criteria is very specific. A detailed statement of the basis of the transfer, an explanation as to why the transfer is in the best national interest and all of that. So they have.
But Senator, the president said there wasn't time.
Wasn't time? What's the rush? He's been there for. These guys have been in there for years.
Yeah, they claimed that he had fallen ill.
Oh.
And there were health concerns.
Yeah, I did not know that, nor do I know the detail as to why he was gone and was out of touch for such a long period of time.
Yeah.
I'm talking about now Bergdahl. I don't have that information. All I know is that this president's been trying to do anything he could to close Gitmo before the end of his term. Now let's stop and realize that. In my narrow view, perhaps, it's one of the few good deals that we have. Where else are you going to put these people during this huge terrorist war that is going on right now? The only place you can do it is to send them back to their country of origin and to be repatriated, and those people, in many cases, don't want them. That means the last alternative would be to put them back in, integrate them back into the United States, and you and I have talked about this before. That terrorists are not criminals. They're terrorists. They teach, if they get incarcerated and are mingled with criminals, they teach them how to be terrorists.
Yeah.
It's a real serious problem that we have there. We have a great facility to hold them, to extract information, and build in with the justice system that is there at Gitmo. Yeah. So I just think this is an effort on their part to try to get this thing done.
They're just emptying out Gitmo. Yeah.
If you guys, I hope you've talked about who these guys are, how
yes.
dangerous they are, and how they're celebrating today.
We definitely have, and and we will continue to. Senator Jim Inhofe is our guest, Republican of Oklahoma, and I need you to take off your Armed Services Committee hat and now put on your Environment and Public Works hat, where you are also the senior member. The president announced a new initiative over the weekend in his weekly address. The EPA is going to go to action. Here's how he phrased it this weekend, Senator.
Today, about 40% of America's carbon pollution comes from power plants. But right now, there are no national limits to the amount of carbon pollution that existing plants can pump into the air we breathe.
He's calling it carbon pollution. That's just really us exhaling, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Can I just say, I've seen some analysis saying that they're basically, the EPA is unilaterally putting in the cap and trade bill that couldn't even get through a democratically controlled House and Senate.
That's it. And we have a lot of listeners there in the Washington area that get really emotional on this thing. They want the president, ever since the Kyoto Treaty, and let's remind ourselves that Clinton and Gore didn't even submit that for ratification to the Senate because they knew that it would fail. Now, ever since that time, we've had all the legislation that has been introduced. I remember the 2003 McCain-Lieberman, and the 2005 bill, and the Warner-Lieberman, and several others. Every time it comes up, it is defeated by a larger and larger margin. Now, you compare that with the polls that the American people have. One of them, most recent polls, global warming is number 14 out of 15 issues, and I can remember when it was number 1. So, people have caught on. Only 31% of the meteorologists believe that man is causing global warming, and these are the guys that do this for a living.
I
think that's an act of desperation. And also this. You've been talking about Tom Steyer, I'm sure.
Yes, and the man, he's the billionaire who's been trying to push through some of these environmental regulations. But let me ask you, when I read some of the reporting on this, I'm seeing some people suggest that the end result is that everybody's electricity costs are going to go up.
Well, I hope that no one out there listening to us right now doesn't believe that. Let's look at the Obama Green Dream is Germany. So Germany is the first one to try to do this. Their energy costs have more than doubled to their citizens. Now, stop now. Those who are listening to us right now, look at your energy costs and doubling that. It is now in Germany 3 times the electricity prices that we have in the United States. There's no question about that. And it also impacts the poorest of the poor, people who spend the largest percentage of their disposable income on trying to keep warm in the winter. So it is something that is there. And, for those who are listening, who really believe that I've been the bad guy for the last 15 years, because that was kind of my issue, that to keep in mind a conversation that was publicized, it was live on TV. It's a question that I asked Lisa Jackson when she was administrator of the EPA, and she, of course, was appointed by Obama. I said, if we were to pass cap and trade, as you're trying to do with legislation, or now that the president's going to try to do with regulation, would that reduce the overall emissions of CO2? She said no, because this isn't where the problem is in the United States. It's in China. It's in India. In fact, you can argue, Larry and Brian, that it would actually increase the emissions over worldwide, because as our manufacturing base has to go to other countries to find places where they can generate electricity, then they'll go places where there are no restrictions at all. So I think that it's an issue that he's going to keep trying. He has a new partner now in this Tom Steyer, who is willing to put $50 million of his own money and then raise an additional 50, but just look at his own money.
Right.
To Democrats who will try to resurrect this issue that the public has now caught on.
Right.
So one of the things they had to do is get on the Senate floor all night. This happened about 3 weeks ago. If you guys have insomnia the 9th, that's the day after tomorrow, turn on the TV and watch. You're going to hear all night long the liberal Democrats talking about why the world's coming to an end.
Well, we got to leave it right there, Senator. Thank you so much for joining us.